Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Monday 5 Live. We're back to it. Had a few weeks off. We had a couple of long weekends thrown in there and school holidays. To be honest, I think I needed the little break. So my focus in the last few weeks has been getting my manuscript for book number 2 complete. And so it's been really good just to have some extra time to focus on that. And now that's all done. So we're back into Monday 5 Live, and today we are talking about the one major factor that prevents good health. There's a lot of things that prevent good health, but this one is significant. It's undercoached, it's not talked about enough, and that is lack of sleep. Now, lack of sleep is a major problem. Most people that we work with have some kind of sleep issue. Even if they think they don't, we will often ask them, what's your sleep like? And a common response is usually something like, I sleep pretty well, I go to bed around 10 and I get up about 6, so I have a full 8 hours sleep. Sometimes I wake up during the night. And then we say, do you wake up feeling refreshed in the morning? And I'd say 90% of the time, the answer is no. So if you think you're sleeping okay, but you're not waking up feeling refreshed in the morning, ready to jump out of bed, if you want to keep hitting the snooze button, that is a sign that your sleep perhaps isn't as good as what you think it is. Now, we all know what happens when we don't sleep properly. Actually, let me just say, why is this undercoached? What Steve and I have come to realize is that sleep isn't talked about enough and it's not coached enough because there's no money in it. So we know that a lot of the health and wellness industry is driven by profit. And we're talking about fads here, trends, you know, the latest gimmicks. They are all driven by profit. They're not about your health. And what we've realized is that no one can really sell you sleep. And that's why it's not talked about much. It's not promoted. And this is where our coaching program really starts to stand out above other coaching programs out there related to holistic wellness, is because we put a really major emphasis on sleep. I'm sure you know someone or several people around you who just don't sleep properly. They talk about it. Maybe that person is you. And we all know what happens when we don't sleep properly. Some of the things are obvious to people. There are other things that happen that aren't so obvious. So, for example, when you don't sleep properly, you can't concentrate. You might have brain fog. You can't think straight. You might have some memory loss. You get irritable, you get grumpy. Morning, Debs, thanks for tuning in. You get grumpy. Your relationships suffer because you're grumpy with the people around you and they take the brunt of it. What you may not know is that if you don't sleep properly, you can't lose weight. Sleep is your #1 tool for weight loss. It's not exercise, it's sleep. And what happens if you don't sleep properly is you end up depositing fat around your abdomen. Other things you might not be aware of. You can't build muscle when you don't sleep properly. So there's people who are going to the gym and they're wanting to get fit and toned and all that sort of thing, but they're not sleeping properly. If you're not sleeping properly, you're not going to be able to build that muscle because your body relies on that rest and recovery time to build that muscle. The muscle is being built while you sleep. Other things that you may not be aware of. The liver doesn't work properly if you don't sleep properly. The liver's got 2,000 functions in the body. It's pretty crucial. And it also can create gut problems. So as we know, 90% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is produced in the gut. And from serotonin, we produce melatonin, which is an essential hormone for sleep. So those are some of the issues that come about with lack of sleep. And I'm going to discuss today some of the main reasons for poor sleep. It goes so far beyond, you know, just having a wound up brain or, you know, something going on during the day that prevents you from sleep. Yes, that's all very real. but I've got 8 key issues here that I want to discuss that you may not be aware of that are leading to poor sleep. And once you've got that awareness, of course, you can go about fixing them. The first one is a poor lifestyle. We're talking about people who have people who have a lot of stress in their lives. I mean, that's a lot of people these days are highly stressed and overwhelmed. What that does is it leads to poor sleep. As a result of poor sleep, you end up drinking coffee. As a result of drinking coffee, it leads to high stress in the body because it raises your cortisol hormone, which is a stress hormone. And then, of course, when you've got high stress in the body, you can't sleep properly. So the cycle starts repeating itself. Poor lifestyle is a major one. We're talking about high-fat diets. We're talking about too much alcohol. If you're somebody who is struggling to get good sleep and you're drinking alcohol in the evening, even if it's only 1 glass of wine or maybe a glass of beer, and you haven't linked those two together, then that is a major, major connection there. Alcohol will wreck your sleep. It'll absolutely screw it up. And sometimes we find that people just don't make that connection. And they're in the habit of having like a glass of wine at night, and then they can't sleep. And they're like, I don't know why I can't sleep. And, you know, that is the connection, is usually it's the alcohol. So if you want to have some good sleep, you need to knock that alcohol on the head, especially during the week. Save it for the weekends. So poor lifestyle is number 1. Number 2 is digestive issues. If you've got any problems going on in your digestive system, whether it's cramping, bloating, pain, what that does is though your gut is actually closely connected to your brain. And I've talked about this a lot in the past. So what happens is those problems in the gut are being communicated to the brain at night. What it does is it triggers your nervous system, and that can be what keeps you awake. Okay, so digestive issues are strongly connected to poor sleep. Also, if you're someone who has a lot of stress, your gut becomes inflamed because you've got a lot of adrenaline in the body. So when you're going through a stressful period, the body will release excess adrenaline to keep you safe, and that inflames the gut. So what happens is food will pass through the intestines. It activates the nerves that are connected to the brain, and so that can keep you awake. And sometimes you can be awake for no real apparent reason, and you don't realize that it's what's going on in your gut that is causing that response in the brain. So that's number 2. Digestive issues are a problem can cause sleep problems. Number 3 is emotional issues. Hey Lorraine, thank you for listening this morning. Hope you guys are both well. Okay, emotional issues, emotional wounds. So this could be something from your past. It could be something that has happened more recently. What happens is that those emotional wounds actually burn out your neurological system, and it causes scarring on the brain. Now, I know this is like real out there stuff. It's incredible. And this is where, you know, you go to your doctor and you go, oh, I'm not sleeping properly. And all they've got for you is a sleeping pill. That's all they've got to offer you is a sleeping pill. They don't go into all this underlying stuff that's going on. And of course, as we know with sleeping pills, they don't address the root cause of the problem. So when you've got scarring on the brain or scar tissue on the brain, it can actually lead to a persistent lack of sleep. So number 3, emotional issues. Number 4 is sleep anxiety. So you might be someone who has regular nightmares. You might have a little bit of PTSD from something that happened in your life. You might have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, or to some degree. Also, sleep anxiety can be caused by neurological disturbances such as nerve sensitivity. And we deal with this kind of thing quite a lot in our coaching programs. We get to the bottom of what is causing that nerve sensitivity in the first place. Toxic heavy metals in the brain are another big one for sleep anxiety. They can cause a panic response and they can cause restlessness. This is all stuff that we just haven't been taught by our conventional medical system. Number 5 is a sick liver. As I've already mentioned, the liver has 2,000 plus functions in the body. Most people have a sick liver. It's just a reality of our modern lifestyles, the way people treat their bodies, high fat diets, alcohol, high stress. If you've got a stagnant or a sick liver, you're going to be having some sleep problems. So between 3 and 4 a.m. is where your liver really gets to work. That's when it starts to activate all the toxins in the body and get them ready to be flushed out of the body in the morning when you wake up and have a glass of water. What happens is if you've got a sick liver from something like a high-fat diet, it starts to malfunction in those early hours of the morning between 3 and 4 a.m. And what it does is it can create spasms that wake you up. So you're lying in bed wide awake. You have no idea why. Could be because your liver is malfunctioning, but of course you're not going to know that because you can't feel it. Hi Emma, hi Claudine, thank you for listening this morning. Okay, number 6, adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue is caused by adrenal glands that seesaw between producing too much and not enough adrenaline. So what can happen is that during the day they can be underactive and so you feel lethargic. And then they become overactive in the evening or when you're in bed. And so that keeps you awake. So adrenal fatigue has a major connection to poor sleep. And we've got to be mindful of the word fatigue because that's a little bit misleading when it comes to adrenal fatigue and sleep, because people think, oh, well, if you've got fatigue, you should be able to sleep properly. That's actually not how it works at all. Number 7 is sleep apnea. Now, there's 2 main forms of sleep apnea. One is obstructive and the other is non-obstructive. Obstructive sleep apnea is caused by bronchial issues. It may be caused by excess mucus, things like postnasal drip. And you can actually get on top of those issues relatively easily when you remove inflammatory foods from the diet. And I'm talking primarily dairy products. If you're someone who gets a lot of mucus, whether it's in your throat, in your nose, in your sinuses, dairy products will be contributing to that in quite a significant way. Also, if you're asthmatic, I'm asthmatic, and I know when some dairy products have snuck into my food because I need my inhaler pretty much instantly. Otherwise, my airways are clear. So dairy creates a lot of mucus in the body, and that can cause sleep apnea by creating all these bronchial issues and nasal drips and things like that. So that's obstructive sleep apnea, and people with obstructive sleep apnea usually need a machine at night to help them breathe. Non-obstructive sleep apnea will not be helped by machines, and this is because this type of sleep apnea is caused by a neurological problem in the body. It can be created by toxic heavy metals in the body and other chemicals such as herbicides, pesticides, that sort of thing. And they can cause imbalances in the brain. So what happens is that when you've got these imbalances happening from things like chemicals and toxic heavy metals, it actually leads to tiny seizures. And that can cause a temporary pause in your breath. That's the difference between obstructive and non-obstructive. Obstructive is generally caused by some kind of inflammatory food that's creating bronchial problems. Non-obstructive is a neurological problem and toxic heavy metals and chemicals in the brain. That's quite a significant difference. And number 8, which is our last one, is neurological issues, which we've sort of covered already. But these are created by dysfunctional adrenal glands. So if you're someone who's got a lot of stress or overwhelm in your life and your adrenal system has crashed, you wouldn't believe how many people out there have a crashed adrenal system and they don't even know. And it's also caused by neurological distress in the body. So this is about inflammation of nerves. Inflammation of nerves can create other major problems such as fibromyalgia, arthritis, all that sort of thing. But when it comes to sleep, you know, inflammation of the nerves is a real problem. So this can sometimes be created by PTSD from a traumatic event. And if you're someone who wakes up with like a jerking leg or an arm or something like that, that's an indicator that you've got neurological distress in the body. There's actually a really easy way to get on top of that, and it's about removing or addressing viral activity in the body. Addressing viral activity, removing the foods that viral activity thrives on. This is what we get into with all our coaching stuff. It's incredibly effective. I've worked with a lady in the past who had dreadful restless leg syndrome every night, and it prevented her from sleeping. She was an absolute mess. We got on top of the neurological issue. We removed some things from her diet that were causing the neurological problems, and now she doesn't get restless leg syndrome anymore. So there's actually 8 things there that I've discussed that can create poor sleep. Just to recap, first one is poor lifestyle. High stress, high fat diets, lots of alcohol. Number 2 is digestive issues. What's going on in the gut can have a strong connection to what's happening in the brain and create sleep problems. Number 3 is emotional issues. Number 4 is sleep anxiety. Number 5 is a sick liver. Number 6 is adrenal fatigue. Number 7 is sleep apnea, both obstructive and non-obstructive. And number 8 is neurological issues. So if you're someone who struggles with sleep and you know that you need to get on top of it, I can tell you sleep issues don't magically get better with time. They get worse because generally the problems in the body get worse as you age. And if you don't get on top of them, things just get worse and worse. Your doctor's going to give you a sleeping pill. You're probably going to battle chronic insomnia when you come off those sleeping pills. So the key thing here is get to the bottom of the root cause of the problem, and there's 8 main reasons there why you may be having poor sleep. A lot of this is covered in our book, From Living Hell to Living Well. We dedicate a whole chapter to sleep because it's so, so important. So if you are struggling with sleep, or perhaps if you know someone who is, direct them to this video so that they can get a little bit more of an understanding about what's going on in the body that is leading to that poor sleep. Hey Kerry, thanks for watching. We're about to sign off now. I've waffled on for way longer than 5 minutes as usual. So thank you all for listening this morning. I really appreciate it, and I really hope that that has given you some value and gone some way to explaining why poor sleep is so prevalent today in our modern society. We'll catch you all same place, same time next week. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.